Hello, 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 and welcome back to the Summer 26, a global soccer showdown with myself, Gary Stryker, and the Qooligan, as always, for our exclusive World Cup 26 dedicated show. Qooligan, it's been a little while since we got back in this saddle, since we've got on the mic in the can, as it were.
I am 1 year older since we last recorded, so thank you very much. You deciding not to speak with me on this formal and share your wisdom with all of our users has resulted in me now just officially becoming an old curmudgeon. So well done, G.
I try. Qooligan, we are 10 days out from the World Cup.
Yes,
obviously, we have recorded, we did a whole bunch of the preamble and the previews of all the groups as well, once we knew who the groups were in as well. That was about 3 weeks ago since we last recorded. And now we are getting into the habit and the spirit as we march on with the World Cup arriving, as we've discussed.
Yeah. And I will say that as fun as those were, my goodness, were we just wrong on so much. So I'm looking forward to setting the record straight now that we actually have, at least for most of the countries, not all the countries, we have official rosters now having dropped.
Yeah.
So.
Well, we know who's sort of pretty much mostly in. I think you said there's about a quarter of the teams are still yet to officially announce final rosters.
True. And they all have to submit to FIFA today, and most will then be announced. At least they'll be dropped on FIFA's own website. They should update those as they come through.
Beautiful.
And whether or not the national teams do their own announcement, that's obviously up to each national team. So, yeah.
Okay. And obviously we record today as of June 1. So that's the official date, as you mentioned. So, what we wanted to do is we wanted to cover just a sort of general overview of how the rosters are looking. Obviously, we'll touch on some of the injuries and some of the big stars that unfortunately were unable to make it due to some sort of unfortunate injuries. And then we're going to cover Canada, Mexico, and then the US as well. And then obviously sort of get into the spirit of it. So, first of all, the one thing that I have noticed is the production quality and the value of announcing these rosters. I think the French were the first ones to do it with this kind of like lavish production of sort of, bringing it in. I know the England team did one as well. I know there've been some other interesting ones. It's a whole new sort of experience and a new vibe. It used to just be some sort of janky ass press release and a screenshot of 26 names on a piece of paper with a crest of a country's crest above it. But now it's become a lot more evolved and sort of produced and content driven, which has been engaging, that's for sure.
I mean, I actually thought the French one was great. It was a lot of fun. I mean, it played up and it really tapped into a lot of the sort of, I will say, French conceptions about what the United States is. I mean, like they were going in barbecues and brunches and suburbs. Although it was curious, I don't know if you noticed, but it really looked like the model suburbs that were done when the Americans were testing nuclear bombs. They actually looked like that type of cookie cutter. So either that or something out of the
it's almost like a Norman Rockwell image or something like that.
Yeah, kind of Norman Rockwell, but with a little bit of a but with a little bit of a twist. It was a little Edward Scissorhands. That's what I was going for. It kind of had that Scissorhandy sort of bit on it, but yeah.
Tim Burton would be proud.
Tim Burton would definitely have liked the France announcement. No, the production values got better, and then there were some countries that did the old school press conference type thing, like Brazil. Now mind you, it was a big media event. Ancelotti looked particularly ill at ease, sort of having to go through with this big media circus type of thing. It's not his comfort zone. USA did a similar thing.
Well, they had the Fox thing.
Know.
Yeah, they had the
I don't know. Each country's done its own little bit, and some just put out, an image on X. Okay, you do you. It's fine. Whatever feels comfortable.
We did notice, because of course we were covering it all, and you've been obviously fantastic at sort of dropping a whole bunch of articles and covering it at hooligan-soccer.com. We've got to mention that plug as well and get back into it. But there was an incredible amount of leaks, and we had a lot of squads actually being unofficially released in a number of days before they were due to officially be released. Which
I'd say that's the second thing I'd say that's the second point that around all of the announcements that I noticed was the sheer amount of, as you say, leaks or even just flat out misinformation, distressing the amount of people who are trying to desperately attain clicks and info and traffic and whatnot by they know it's not true, but they just do it anyway. And so, it's not unsurprising, but it is still a little distressing. And yeah, the Guardian released the U.S. Roster 3 days before the official Fox television show was scheduled on it. So it did steal some of that thunder. The Guardian obviously was absolutely correct. Whatever they got was gold, right? So it was not incorrect, but it was a little. There's big business in this information, right? So it's you can announce what you want, but I found that for many of I had dates that the federations themselves had given. More often than not, they had to move those and accelerate those forward in order to, stem leaks or stave them off at the time. So
Okay. Well, it's the information's mostly out. Were there any, from your perspective, any sort of like noticeable sort of like shocks or sort of like surprising sort of omissions or entries in a way?
Lots. But I'm not going to summarize them here because I think as we go through each country deserves its own merit about whether some of those things are. I will say one thing right off the top of Neymar making the World Cup is a travesty. That is an absolute, and I still am convinced because it is a very clickbaity and completely not based in any sort of truth. I have not written an article about it, although I am tempted to. I really think this is a gigantic ploy by Ancelotti to sort of keep the Neymar camp quiet. They've called him in. They know he's injured. They've admitted that he's injured. They've publicly stated they're not going to get rid of him. But I think quietly what you're going to see is, because you are allowed to make roster substitutions between June 2 and the first game, I think you're going to see that Neymar's quietly going to go away and João Pedro is going to magically show up from the beach again and do his magic. You heard it here first. I just think I think this is a somewhat intentional move on his part because the furor that would have occurred, whether it was justified or not, if Neymar hadn't made it, was big. Now, there was a furor when João Pedro wasn't selected either, but it's a smaller one because Neymar is still Neymar. He's still got he's more of a global phenomenon. João Pedro, not so much. He's not a global phenomenon, right?
Yeah.
He's a Chelsea phenomenon. Made a lot of Chelsea people mad. I know you were burned.
I honestly, I think it's a bit of a blessing, to be honest, because just the summer that he had previously with the Club World Cup, as you say, coming off the beach, the Club World Cup, and then going straight into a season, it probably does give him a bit of a preseason to just rest and sort of enjoy his holidays.
So you're being selfish. Okay.
I'm not a Brazil
I see
fan,
Chelsea,
that's for
sure. typical Chelsea selfishness coming out here. Don't take our players, please. We don't want them playing in your little special tournament. No, we can't have that.
The same thing can be applied for Cole Palmer as well, not getting called up for the England squad as well. So it just gives him a season.
Well this year. That's why he did not
have a good season.
He didn't get called because he wasn't producing.
He was not delivering. Same as Foden, right? They were not starting for City.
I will battle you. I will battle you to the hilltop on that one.
Although
I don't think it's much of a battle. I think you might agree with me.
I agree with you on that one.
That's fair. Okay.
Same with Foden. But going back to your Ancelotti point, I do agree with you, because if you look at Ancelotti, the experience he has of managing up and managing not only big clubs, big owners, billionaires, state sort of entities owning teams as well, and then just fan bases, the Real Madrid fan base, all of these guys. He knows how to manage the situation, and I agree with you. I think there is a possibility of a last minute switcheroo for Neymar, for João Pedro as well, and we'll see how that goes.
And even if he came out on Saturday or Sunday, and I know he did come out in a press release and stated that he wasn't going to do that, I still think he's going to do that.
Yeah, but we'll see. Yeah. So apparently Neymar's got, I don't know, is it like a calf injury or something like that?
It's called a category 2 or a stage 2 calf injury. And they've got all I don't know what any of this means really, but he's hurt, can't train. Yeah. And he's not going to be back apparently into training until the 13th of June. Now, Brazil's a little later, right? They're not, their first game, I believe, is what?
The 13th. No, 13th.
Was it the 13th precisely? Well, you ain't making that one. We know that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so... Yeah.
I mean, I think that's a bit risky, right? Firstly, having him there, period, I think was a mistake. They should have just said, thank you very much, Neymar, you're done.
He's injured. Yeah, he's injured. He can't make it.
You're injured. You don't get your chance. But at the same time, I also know it's difficult to, to say no to fan favorites. Truly, it's hard. So, yeah, right there in Group C, they are early. Yeah, they kick off against Morocco on the 13th. Okay. Well, yeah, I think pound for pound, João Pedro is far more ability to impact the game than Neymar does. And I really don't want to see any more memes of him flopping his way across like a decked salmon, across the pitch.
It's
so.
I think it's reasons like that he's never going to be known as a great, because greats do not roll around and sort of, and flop, as you say, or dive too easily. It really, really is not good.
Yeah. There's a lot of reasons why he's never going to be called a great, but that's one of them.
Yeah,
yes.
That's one of them. Anyway, I think,
but that was a big shock. I don't mind mentioning that one out of band, but I think for a lot of the other ones, I'll keep it. I'll probably keep it when we go to talk about the respective countries, because I think every country has at least one snub that is noticeable.
Well, yeah.
Some may have more than others. The other thing that I do want to mention, and this will be borne out, is wow, there's a lot of old farts in this tournament. The average age of players is so much higher than I expected across the board. And I don't know. I mean, obviously, I'm adjusting all of my rosters on my side as they come through. I have yet to see a team whose average age is even really lower than 26. The average age of the teams is 26 or higher. That's pretty high. And the number of 40-year-olds that are going to play in this tournament that have been rostered for this tournament is more than any other World Cup ever. And more than all the previous 40-year-olds that have played in the World Cup to date.
Okay. Wow. That's a good,
it's
good
close
bit of research.
to that.
Good stat. Okay.
Obviously, we don't know because there are still a number of countries that are still, fish, but there are a lot of older players and 40-plus-year-olds, 39-year-olds. Messi, Ronaldo, Neymar's in that group, right? I think he's still 38, 39?
35, 30, something like that. Yeah, 37, 38.
Older than that. But again, a lot of old players. And they're not all goalkeepers. That's the other thing. It's okay, fine, it's a goalkeeper, 40 years old. That's the usual thing, is that's what happens. But no, it's a very aged group. And I would be surprised if there may even be just as many 35 pluses as there are 21 and youngers. Which, okay. I mean, listen, it's big business now. World Cup is no longer just about national pride. This is big business.
Yep.
So they're gonna, these coaches are they want to win. There's money on the line for everybody. So
yeah, well, there's pride, money, and all those things. I agree. Okay, all right. So we're going to basically spend sort of today also just looking into sort of the host nations as well, just covering sort of how they're looking in the groups, how their rosters are looking, and taking it from there. So should we go and start with Canada?
Okay. Let's start with B. All right, I like it.
Well, let's start. Well, I was going to let's start with Canada and then get into it as well. So Canada, obviously, as you say, are in Group B with Bosnia, Qatar, and Switzerland.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
we covered this as well. They should. You'd expect them to be able to get out of this group just with the home field advantage and a bit of sort of support. Qatar shouldn't be too much of an issue. Bosnia are going to be tricky, and Switzerland, if they turn up, they can absolutely can actually get out of that group. But yeah, just looking at their roster and just looking at Canada, I mean, obviously you see the big names in there. Davis is in there from Bayern. Obviously, Jonathan David, who plays for Juventus as well, he's there as well. Any sort of surprises or omissions here on the Canadian side that
not particularly. I didn't find. I'd say that the inclusion of Owen Goodman as a third string goalkeeper. Normally, you'd say, well, who cares about a third string goalkeeper? I do for Canada, because if you've been watching Dane St. Clair and Maxime Crepeau play, they're both not good. I mean, in the sense that look at the stats they've put up in MLS. They're porous as hell, man. It's just not. I mean, what? I could see Owen Goodman plays for Barnsley in the 3rd division of England, right? And I mean, he might come on and be a savior, because neither St. Clair or Crepeau are strong. They've let in so many goals. Now, mind you, they're and you think Dane St. Clair plays for Inter Miami. Wow, Inter Miami's winning in the position they're in. because their offense is fantastic. They ain't getting in on their defensive acumen. And some of that is St. Clair. Same thing. Orlando City, completely a disastrous, start to the season. Some of that's Crepo's fault. So, yeah, I'd say there's some concerns in the North with their lineup there. No, nothing else really jumped out at me. There is one curious thing that I saw was a gentleman named by the name of Alfie Jones, who plays for Middlesbrough. You may remember him from all of that drama around the championship with Middlesbrough and all. He switched. His grandmother was Canadian, and he just switched a few weeks ago, nationalized from England to Canada. So he'll be making his second, when Canada opens against, they play Bosnia. When Canada opens against Bosnia, he could be making his third cap ever for Canada.
Wow. Okay.
I found that fascinating.
Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. You've got Alphonso Davies. There's a bunch of LAFC players, right? You've got Estaquillo and
Porto player, right? Yeah.
And Schaffelberg are there. Oh, sorry, and also Oshwanier. So, you've got 3 players from LAFC. Yeah, listen, it's a good squad. It's Canada.
Yeah.
Nobody's the Canadians are obviously expecting something, and Jesse Marsch did a really, really aggressive move to encourage dual nationalities to come over to the Maple Leaf, right?
Yeah.
That's how we got Alfie Jones. He's like, he called up, who's the guy who does all that genealogy stuff for PBS? He called that guy up and said, yo, go back to the family trees, find me all the Canadians from all these players, please.
Yeah, and give these second-rate players a chance to get in the World Cup, right? Yeah, go and host nation in the World Cup. What an experience!
They're a host nation. They've got a lot of play. Jesse Marsch, you love him, you hate him. He's a good coach. He generally gets results. So why not? I think, and in a group that is somewhat friendly, I think they have a very good chance of advancing. Right?
Yeah.
I look at these names and I go, it's a solid team. It's, it's almost all A players, first league players from good groups. And from those who are coming in from lower divisions, it's English lower divisions. So, which are generally pretty strong. So why not?
Standard is high. Yeah.
Nothing really shocked me here. Nothing shocked me. There probably, if people were really following Canadian soccer, there were probably some people that didn't get in that might have raised eyebrows, but nobody that jumps out at me saying, wow, I can't believe they didn't take Marshall Ruddy or Jason Russell Rowe. I'm like, okay, good players, but not exactly like world beaters. So,
yeah. Okay. Yeah. I think the way I see it, I think it's just that group, Bosnia and Switzerland are probably the 2 strongest teams. If they can get a result or get a draw or something against Bosnia and then beat Qatar and then maybe try and muddle through, there is an option. There is a pathway for a third place, right? Some of the best third teams do qualify, I believe. Is that right?
Actually, quite a few of them do. You've got 48 teams, right? 24 advance, and there's 12 groups. So yeah, actually no more than that advance. 36 advance, I think. I can't remember, but there's good opportunity. Good opportunity.
So yeah, they could get through for sort of goals scored and sort of performance and those kind of things. So yeah, okay.
And of course, they're in a group with as you said, Bosnia's got one of those 40-year-olds that we were talking about, Edin Dzeko.
Yeah, and Dzeko, right?
He's one of those ageless wonders that is going to be making an appearance.
It's almost like a testament to sports science, almost in a way, just the number of the longevity of these players as well, right? It really is, right?
You're right.
That's
correct. And it is not surprising. Their players are better. Players are smarter. And
they're not smoking and drinking, eating well.
That's it. The science is so much better, as you say. So it is possible to keep yourself at a high level for much longer than it used to be. Yeah, and it helps when you're not guzzling pints and smoking packs of cigarettes.
And not eating carbs and all those kind of things. And eating just clean and healthy. Yeah, shocker. Okay, right. Let's move forward to Group A and covering Mexico, who of course have Czech Republic, or Czechia as they're now called, South Africa, and that will be the opening game, Mexico-South Africa in 10 days' time, and then South Korea. This Mexico squad, I know the fans are rabid and obviously will be supporting, the El Tri sort of fervently, if that's even the correct way of saying it.
I believe is what you're trying to say.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah, it's a slow Monday morning. Any sort of shocks here or any surprises here on the Mexican team?
Yes and no. The whole Mexican the whole Mexican scene was a saga just to begin with, from the initial culling and the pulling of all Mexican league players that they were identifying for their national camp and saying you can't play in the Liguilla, can't play in the CONCACAF Champions Cup matches, and all of that drama that went on.
So can you just break that down a little bit for anyone who wasn't following that as well? So essentially, what happened is
in late May, right at the conclusion of the this was the Clausura half of their season, the Mexican national team coach Javier Aguirre highlighted a number of players and said, "I'm bringing them into a Mexican camp now, a full month before the World Cup first game." And they're not going to be able to play for their club or for any purpose whatsoever, whether that be La Liga playoffs or, cups. Go.
CONCACAF Champions Cup, yeah. So you've got basically some of these players who are chasing down titles, chasing down trophies, want to go for it. And the Mexican national managers just said to prevent any injury, any issues, you basically, if you play for these teams, if you play for your teams respectively after this date, you will not be selected, not go to the World.
And that happened, and it gutted Chivas, right? So Chivas lost 5 players. Toluca lost 2 players. There was a number of teams the teams just lost some of their best players. That only happened in the Mexican League. So teams that, if you played for say Premier League team like Raul Jimenez, they didn't try to force Fulham to do that. That was not going to happen. They could only really do that inside their own national league.
Their federation,
Correct.
Their own federation, and they could flex their muscles because Fulham would have told them.
Mexico traditionally pulls a lot from their own league. They are one of the larger teams that is quote native.
Yeah.
Right. 44% of their current roster of 26 plays inside the Mexican league. It's a pretty high number.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
No big surprise there. Now, there were surprises in the final groups that were selected because they actually ultimately ended up pulling 55 players in on a preliminary and bringing them into camp. It's a huge number. So he had a lot of players cycling through, rotating through. He was checking them out. Whether he was just doing that as a flex or whether he was really looking at them, I don't know. I can't say. He's been around a long time ago. He's got his own methodology. But many people were shocked when Germán Beltrame was not put into the final 26. Right? This is the striker for Inter Miami. Right? They paid a lot of money to get him out of the Mexican League. He's not been terrible. It's always hard when you're playing on a team that's got Luis Suarez and Rodrigo de Paul and Lionel Messi to make your mark, but he still scored a lot of goals and has some assists. He's not been ineffective, and he's been getting playing time. And instead, he went with Alexis Vega from Toluca, who has been injured, has had a very public knee problem. And he may be fit and he may not be fit, but they went with him and they didn't go with Beltrame. And only time's going to tell whether that was a smart choice or not. But I think that one could argue that at least in the moment right now, Beltrame is a better player than Vega is. Vega might be more capable of big moments. Man, that's so risky. And if you're sitting with an injured knee, you've got to worry about that deep down because you don't have a lot. And maybe Vega will get some playing time on Tuesdays because they're playing a friendly on Tuesday. Maybe he'll get some playing time there. And if he tweaks it or does something, they can always pull him out and put Beltrame in. So none of this stuff is super done, right? Up until 24 hours before the match, there's always things that can change. People can get injured. Things can happen. It's flexible. It's not as cut and dried as it used to be, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And then looking through that group of, as we mentioned, of Group A, Mexico, South Africa, South Korea, Czech Republic. Now, Mexico have home field advantage. Those stadiums are going to be absolutely cooking. It's going to be fantastic. The South Africans, there's that repeat of the South African World Cup in 2010 is obviously hosting Mexico. It's kind of going to be the inverse. I would be intimidated if I was those South African players because that place is going to be just all Mexico, of course. Czech Republic, not bad. I mean, pretty decent sort of outfit as well. Qualified through the pathways as well. Just got into the World Cup in the end. South Korea do look strong as always. South Korean are very, very good. So you'd expect South Korea probably to go through comfortably, and then Mexico. Again, you'd hope that the home field advantage carries them through. It gets them through to the knockouts.
I completely omitted Mexico's nod to the gracefully aging, which is Memo, right? He's back, baby. Guillermo Ochoa, right? At 40 years old and playing professionally in Cyprus.
Wow.
Made the team.
Okay.
And I think that is as much a nod to marketing as it is to the fact that, I mean, he's still a decent keeper. And he's got such a deep history with the World Cup and Mexico with some incredible saves, just some big drama. But I mean, he is the face of the Mexican national team right now. And every ad that you're going to see in the United States is going to features him everywhere. Beer, tequila, betting, doesn't matter. He's there.
Yeah.
Memo supports it, right? He's getting paid. If he had not made the team, I think there would have been some questions. And I wonder, did he really get in on his merits? Although, he did play in the friendly, they played a friendly against Australia over the weekend. He did play. He did make some saves. He wasn't, so it wasn't like, you didn't make any major mistakes. Then again, that was, to be fair, an awful game by both sides. Both sides looked completely anemic and really like they weren't so keen on being there, right? It was like, fine. I mean, I don't think that's as much of a concern for Mexico, but it did make me raise some serious concerns about Australia.
Yeah, well, again, it could be some pretty.
But we'll get to them in Group D. But anyway,
exactly.
Like you said, I actually think it's going to be difficult. I think Group A is going to be hard. I think both South Korea and Czechia / Czech Republic are going to be challenging. And Mexico really needs a strong result in their opener. They have to beat South Africa. If they do not look dominant, and if they don't impose their will on South Africa, they're going to be in trouble.
Yeah. I'd agree. Yeah, they need points off South Africa, absolutely, because it's going to be tough to get points elsewhere. Okay, let's jump over just in the name of time to Group D and, of course, check in on the US. So the US had a friendly match yesterday against Senegal. They did, and they won 3-2 against Senegal. Pulisic's goal droughts came to an end, which was obviously, I'm sure, sort of very encouraging. Also as well, but I mean, Senegal didn't look too bad. Mane scoring 2 goals as well, and pretty sort of decent outfit as well. But let's talk the US. Pochettino. First of all, let's actually just talk Pochettino as well, because there's been some stuff floating around about Pochettino, about how he's been sort of like having meetings already with clubs to sort of go and take and manage sort of like at the club level post World Cup, which is I don't think that sends the right message out, whether it's true or not. Just those kind of generally where there's smoke, there's fire, and you can understand how he'd be quite in demand. I do get the feeling that he's not in it for the long term. This is just a nice sort of stopgap to just sort of, host a national team who are hosting the World Cup and sort of, raise your stock and raise your profile and all those kind of things.
Let's not forget the $6 million that he gets paid per year.
Well, yeah, sure, but he's going to get that anywhere he goes as well. So that's just, it's again, at this stage, it's
yes and no, but it's like, that's still a pretty nice payday for coaching 20 games.
For coaching 20 games. I think Chelsea probably paid him that just to cut his contract as well. So yeah, he's doing okay, right? And again, I don't think it's so much on the financial side, but it definitely sort of raises his profile and his stock. And look, there is a world where if they do go on a bit of a run and get through to the quarters, I don't think, he doesn't come out of this looking bad in any way. It will blow up in his face if they fail to get out of the groups, which is just looking historically, sort of looking at the US's form, particularly in the run up to prior to the game yesterday, they have not been looking good. They have not been getting results. So that's just what some thoughts.
You watched the game, right?
I did not.
Did you watch the game? Oh, you did not.
I did not watch the game. No, I just saw the game.
They looked good against Senegal. I'd actually say they looked very good. It was one of the best performances that I had seen by the Americans in a very long time. The first goal was absolutely brilliant, and everybody's going to mention Pulisic, and everyone's going to mention Dest, but that goal had nothing to do with those two. That goal was all about Ricardo Pepi. And that's the name that I'm going to be saying right now. Ricardo Pepi, this is his World Cup. If he plays like he played against Senegal, and he was wonderful, if he can play that, He will not stay at PSV Eindhoven. All right. He is going to get yanked out of there so fast because it was his pass that made Puselic's run. They passed to Dest. It was his pass that got Christian Puselic one-on-one with the goalkeeper, and Puselic did a good finish. I'm not taking away from his finish. But it was Pepi who did all that. Not anybody else. It was him. And so I think that it was a solid performance. It was good. Yeah, they conceded 2 goals. This is Sadio Mane you're talking about here. He's a legend. He's one of the greatest players that Africa has ever produced.
Beast,
they did nothing wrong on the first one. He made a run. He had a tough angle. Lord Almighty, who was it? It was Tyler Adams. I mean, Tyler Adams almost committed a penalty trying to get him to not take that shot, and he still took the shot and put it right through a needle. Okay, those happen. You give up goals like that. Nothing that they did in that game was terrible, was so bad that it made you just wince. There were moments where they had mistakes or bad passes and all this other stuff, but Turner did some great goalkeeping. Freeze came out, did some goal. It was fun. Good performance, right? If they have another good performance, well done. Good for them, right? That's what they need right now is that build up. They need that oomph. And they completely played 2 different teams, right? They made 10 substitutions at halftime.
Of course.
So, they got everybody out there to check it out and see what was going on. Second half was not as good, I will admit. Yeah. They lost a little fidelity in that second.
Yeah. There's a couple of guys I'd like your thoughts on as well. I see Gio Reyna started.
Yeah.
He was in the starting lineup. Now, I remember my only real sort of understanding of Gio Reyna is he's always sort of like has a lot of promise and a lot of potential about him, but he's never just made it. I remember the Qatar World Cup as well, going to one of the two US games, in fact, as well, and everyone complaining that Gio Reyna's not starting. And he just always seems to be one of these players who just keeps missing out. I feel like he's very, very overhyped, and he doesn't fill me with a lot of confidence. Would you say that's a fair?
No, I agree. I think his inclusion was a shock. I don't think he deserved to be there. I think that Diego Luna would have been a better choice. I know that he's coming off an injury, but he's also done really well. And Luna is such a ferocious competitor. I mean, you want Luna on your team, if only for the fact that he could scare the spirit out of people by just glaring at them. He is so driven, right? I mean, there's the very famous thing where he broke his nose and went back and scored 2 goals onto the pitch. That's the type of player that you want on that. I don't see Reyna ever having that grit. He just doesn't have that grit to me.
Yeah,
maybe he'll surprise me. Maybe he won't. But I think Luna deserved it. I think Zoza deserved it. The other guy, the young kid from Xavier Gozo, I thought he deserved it more. I think both Gozo of them are as good, if not better, than Reyna.
Yeah,
and they've been playing, but let's wait and see. But yeah, I think his inclusion was not great. And let's be honest, if Johnny Cardozo was not hurt, Reyna wouldn't be there. Cardozo would be there. And that'd be an even better choice than the other 2 that I mentioned. So it goes,
Okay. And then who do you think starts as the number 9? Do you think it should be Pepe
Balogun,
who starts as well?
Balogun.
I was going to say, but no, Balogun. You think Balogun? I mean, he came on obviously and scored, which was great to see, but he came
on, he scored, he showed he was dangerous, but I think it's going to be curious to see because with Pepi was in that 9, but was playing it as a false 9 and moving all around and doing much more and being more creative. And that's going to be the big give and take is, do they want to have somebody who's going to be up there and taking those cracks, or do they want to have somebody who's going to be in there and helping to pull the strings and create the opportunities, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's what this next game that they're playing, they play on Tuesday night, right? I'm not sure who they play, but they play Portugal. Don't they play Portugal on Tuesday night or somebody big? They're playing the big side.
Yeah, they have they're playing Germany.
There you go. See, told you, big side. So them playing Germany is now this is going to be a friendly. Neither team is going all out on this one.
No crunching tackles on this one. Yeah, no crunching tackles.
There won't be.
Yeah.
There won't be.
Yeah.
But so it won't be exact, a perfect test. But still, it is going to be curious to see just how Poch threads that and which way he's going to go. The nice thing is he's got enough players that he can afford to try and do both and see which one works, But of course, he can't make 10 substitutes at halftime, so he's only going to be limited to 5. And so it'll be a challenge. It'll be a challenge.
Yeah. Your beloved Crystal Palace and a rapidly new favorite defender of mine, Chris Richards.
Well, he won't play. He won't play.
Yeah, but he got selected. He got called, so they haven't switched him out yet.
No. And you'll notice he didn't play in the final against Rayo, and that was not because Glasner had any concerns about his fitness for the World Cup. Glasner wouldn't give a rat's ass about that, right? If he thought that Richards could play, Richard was going to play in that game. The fact is, he didn't think he could play in that game. And that's not a good sign.
Yeah.
Right. Now, there is going to be a gap and there's going to be some recovery time. And I think Richards will definitely take the field, but he's going to be touch and go.
Yeah.
But he's going to be touch and go.
Yeah. And so you've got to rely on Tim Ream to come back in and obviously
by the way, I hate to say it, Tim Ream is going to make a monumental mistake and it's going to cost them a goal. Guarantee it. I guarantee it.
Yeah. So chances do we think of the US getting out of their group? Do you think this is a reality?
I think it's strong.
Yeah.
If Australia does not get their act together, they're going out. I mean, they looked abysmal against. They looked completely bereft of anything, even any strategy, any real fire. They just didn't look good against Mexico. A friend of mine said, for a team whose entire method of play is to hunker down and low block, he's like, they had no counterattack. They were fine at the hunkering down and low blocking, but they were shite at the counterattack. So if they don't develop some magic on the counterattack, their World Cup's going to be over because someone's going to crack through that. You can't 0-0 your way in to the next rounds. It doesn't work that way. And so they're going to have to do better than that. No, I still think Turkey is the second most dangerous team in the group, and they might actually be the most dangerous team in the group, depending on how the US does. And I think Turkey's they've got so much good ability and good teams.
Those two, the youth players that they have, right? Those two, is it Yildiz?
Assuming they all
right?
make the team, yes. We're talking about Kenan Yildiz and Arda Güler.
Yeah,
assuming they make the team, which they should.
Yeah,
right. Because Turkey has not dropped its final roster yet. I think Turkey's a fairly predictable one to call, and they're going to be strong. It's going to be strong, and Paraguay is. I swear they're just an unknown. They are they're a tough team. They're a physical team.
Technical and quick as well.
They're passionate. They're very passionate and very gritty. So, but they are beatable, right? Australia is beatable. All they need to do, if the U.S. does its job, the Turkey game doesn't matter. That's their game plan. They have got to win their first 2 games.
Yeah.
They do that, and nothing else matters.
Doesn't matter. 6 points, they qualified, they're through, and that's all that matters, right?
They can field a team of ball boys, and it won't matter.
Yeah. Wonderful. Well, Qooligan, I think that takes us through, obviously, all the host nations as well. I think that brings us up on time as well. So we will pause it there. We will be coming back. We'll be doing a couple more of these before the World Cup kicks off, and then we are daily, plus a bunch of guests coming on and a whole bunch of other things going on as well. So as always, go to hooligan-soccer.com to go and check out all of the musings and the writings from our wonderful team of creators, writers, and journalists, as well as yourself. And until then, Qooligan, we will be back and then picking some more interesting narratives to go.
Peace.